Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. On today's video, I'm going to be going through and ranking every unfazed and bold card, unfazed and GOAT card from worst to best here in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM. Now, obviously, we got a ton of cards today between the unfazed and GOAT collection. Obviously, the GOAT collection is just a ton of different Larry Birds, but I'm going to be ranking all these cards from worst to best and giving y'all my opinion. So before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 25,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day. Less than 300 subscribers away. Would love to hit that within the next week or two, and would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it and let's discuss. We'll start off with the worst card from today's drop, and it is this Galaxy Opal Larry Bird. It is a real shame that the only truly free card from the GOAT set or the unfazed set is by far the worst of any card. This is an awful card. At this point in the year, an 80 speed power forward who can't put the ball on the floor, can't really dunk. Great shooter, yes, but I believe, yeah, he's still got his own release on very quick instead of the changed base to a manual quickly base. The Kobe Escape Pro dribble style, like, I guess there's something SIGs there-ish, but not really. This card is just not very good as a whole. Doesn't look like he does very much at all, honestly, particularly well at this point in the year. And that card is terrible, so I think he's definitely the worst. The second worst is definitely this Rob Williams, though. So 6'9", 7'6" wingspan, hot spots from everywhere, yes, but only a 73 ball is not what you're looking for out of a big, especially only a 6'9" big. He doesn't have elite level size either, so yes, he's fast, yes, he's a great dunker, and yes, he's a great defender, but unfortunately he's not even a great playmaker, and he's certainly not a great shooter, and I think that holds this card back a good amount. Next is Opal Larry Bird, who is also not great, the pullable Opal Larry Bird, but is definitely better than the other one. Has at least 90 speed instead of 80, has 80 standing dunk instead of 75 or 70 or whatever it is. His stats and badges as a whole are more complete and better, but still admittedly not insane considering same SIGs. Release is on very quick, but not an incredible release still because it's not the changed base, it's his own base. And like, I just as a whole think he's still honestly a pretty mediocre card. This Opal is a better version of the first Opal, but still not very good. Next, we got Emmanuel quickly. Another Opal, another very small Opal as well. 6'2" with a 6'7" wingspan just does not give him elite level size. And while he has solid all-around stats and badges, he's not an elite enough defender, doesn't have elite enough size, nor elite enough slashing, in my opinion, to truly be a top-tier option. And SIGs are pretty good, but I don't think as a whole this card is all that great because of his mainly lack of size. Chris Paul is who I have next. Yes, he's a dark matter, but he's also a pure 6-foot dark matter. He is very, very small. So similar slashing-wise to Emmanuel quickly, better all-around defensive shooting and playmaking badges as a whole in terms of completeness and slightly better stats. Also has better SIGs, although I will say his release on very quick is still not that great. And as a 6-foot point guard, you really want an elite release. But at the end of the day, you don't want to use a 6-foot point guard regardless. So again, that is why he is this low on the list. Next up is another dark matter, actually, and it's Paul Pierce. This Paul Pierce card has a very, very poor release, and I think that, outside of everything else, is what holds this card back. John Wall's dragback, Kobe Escape, Kyrie dribble style, and Trey Fade are very nice, and he is a 6'7" shooting guard, but his release is booty cheeks, and that is a killer, and I think that does hold this card back pretty strongly, to be honest, because I just think his release is really, really bad. And a guy like Opal Wally Zerbiak, who's not as complete as Paul Pierce, but same in size and a much, much better release, still a capable enough defender, playmaker, and finisher, is, in my opinion, despite not having quite the same stats and badges, has a much, much better release, and I think, therefore, is definitely one of the better options at the shooting guard position among viable cards. This card doesn't look incredible still, but he doesn't look terrible, and I think he's at least better than that Paul Pierce card was. Next up is who's next up after? Oh, sorry, Cam Whitmore. The other Opal. Unfortunately, the Opals this week were just really mid in general. This is the highest ranked of the Opals and still below most of the dark matters. Like, this card is just not that good. He would be good if he could play shooting guard. On at small forward, he could use a little more playmaking. Defensively, he is solid, but not insane. He's only 6'7". SIGs are pretty darn good, I will say, and he's got his own release on very quick, which does help. And he's not a bad card. I just don't think he's an unbelievably great one. I do think he's the best Opal from today's drop, but still not an insanely amazing card or anything. Next up is Scotty Barnes, 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan. This card is good as well, of course, but a very complete stats and badges. He's got Kyrie dribble style, but his SIGs could definitely be better. Releases on very quick, yes, but again, like, I just think he could be a bit better. Now, he does have super complete stats and badges. He's 6'8", great defender, really good card for sure. I just kind of wish that he had a I don't know. I wish mainly number one that is released maybe a teensy bit better, but honestly, mainly that he had slightly better SIGs outside of that Kyrie dribble style. After that, we have specifically power forward center Larry Bird, because this Larry Bird compared to the other Dark Matters, while they all have the same stats and badges and great animations, this is the worst definitively of them because he's only 6'9" and can only play power forward and center, whereas all the other Larry Birds can play point guard, shooting guard, or small forward. And that provides a lot more positional value at those positions. So despite being the exact same card as the other Larry Birds, this Larry Bird comes in a couple spots lower. So the final non-Larry Bird card on this list, or sorry, second to last non-Larry Bird card on this list, is Dark Matter Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And yes, Dark Matter Kareem is a very good card, but he has the bald player build instead of the afro, which makes him look smaller. He is very similar to his 100 overall, yes, but I don't think this card is that exceptional because his release is not elite, and honestly, neither are his SIGs. Even with the release on very quick and okay-ish SIGs, they could certainly be a bit better, I would say, and as a whole. It's not that I think Kareem is a bad card, I just don't think he's an unbelievably elite one at this point in the year. I don't know. He's definitely very good, and he's one of the better cards from today's drop, but I do think there are a few cards better still. Number, I guess, 2 outside of Larry Bird is James Harden. I think Harden at 6'5" and 6'10" wingspan is really, really good as a 100 overall point guard and very fun, has pretty much perfect SIGs and animations, and obviously his stats and badges are exceptional. But he's only 6'5" at point guard, and he plays a very, very deep, very saturated position with a ton of other good free cards and earnable cards, and I think as a whole, it kind of, because the position is so saturated, it kind of holds him back a little bit. Now, to be fair, the rest of this list is all Larry Birds. There are 5 of them that are left, and I think really it doesn't matter the order. If I was going to go with an exact order, it would be power forward, small forward Larry, and then power forward, shooting guard Larry, and then power forward, point guard Larry, and then 100 overall Larry, and then GOAT Larry. All these Larrys have the exact same animations. The Dark Matters all have the exact same stats and the exact same badges. And then the 100 overall is slightly better stat and badge-wise. And then the GOAT Larry is even slightly better stat and badge-wise. That being said, you could probably make the argument that the point guard eligible Larry is actually the best of all of these cards, despite not having as good stats and badges as the GOAT or the 100 overall, because of his point guard eligibility. And if you wanted to make that argument, I wouldn't totally disagree with you. But I think at the end of the day, probably still taking the GOAT and the Invincible over him just a little bit, although to be fair, there's not that huge of a difference, so maybe not. But as a whole, it basically, that's the whole order that you need, and then at the top, it's just Larry, whichever version of Larry you might have if you get lucky enough to pull one. Obviously, I opened a 10 box with MT earlier today, and I pulled a Larry, so that was nice that I at least got a version, even if it wasn't the position that I personally would have desired. So very, very good card, obviously. All these different versions of Larry, at least the Dark Matter and up versions are. And yeah, unfortunately, the gambling only content has still ruined this game, but hopefully this video at least gives you all a good picture of the cards that are out there and ranks them well. I'll do a ranking from worst to best of all of the Season 7 rewards tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that video as well, but I hope y'all did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.